Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 3 of my series where I go through Americana by the decades. And today I am tackling the 1980s. Now, let me start the video with a word of warning, a cautionary, asterisk, whatever you want to call it. I am not going through extensive, um, you know, every Americana artist that is under the realm of the genre. I've got a lot of people that are commenting, how can you leave this off? How can you leave this off, that off, whatever it might be. The fact of the matter is, believe it or not, I don't have every artist that's ever recorded Americana music. I don't have a lot of artists that may be considered, you know, stalwarts in the genre. There are artists that I like a lot that I might not have an album from a particular decade. That's just what you're gonna get. I'm not doing this for any kind of praise or glory. I'm doing this for fun with the albums that I have. So if I leave people out, I apologize, but only slightly apologize because I don't have every artist that's ever recorded music. Shocker. Anyway, sorry. 1980s. This was difficult because the 80s, as we all know, and looking back over the last 45 years now to 1980 onward, the 80s was a weird time for rock artists. It was a weird time for songwriters, for everybody, because it was the age of big production, of synthesizers, of radio-friendly hits, of new wave, a lot of Euro kind of stuff. So, roots music was not exactly a popular thing to create during this time. However, there are some big moments, and I guess the swing of Americana. Now, there are lots of artists that I'm not going to talk about, but that would definitely jump into this genre. We have, Dwight Yoakam and doing the Bakersfield country sound that also had some rockabilly aspects to it. We have John Hyatt doing his thing. We have Lyle Lovett doing his thing. We have Los Lobos with like a kind of a Tex-Mex kind of vibe, an aspect. We have the Mavericks that are coming up in the late '80s. With Raul Malo. So we have all of these different artists. We have people talking about like the Blasters and all these different people that are still kind of in that underground, as it were, genre. They're doing stuff that's not making the big splash, but that's okay. The thing is, some of these albums that I'm showing are truly inspirational albums to Americana artists today. So I'm going to be focusing a little bit on that. One of the big ones is this guy, Steve Earle. This is from 1988. This is Copperhead Road. Steve Earle kind of came from the Texas songwriting camp. He was studying Townes Van Zandt, Guy Clark, Jerry Jeff Walker, all these guys. He was a contemporary of Rodney Crowell, coming up in that day and age, and he was putting out these great kind of folky rock with a punk edge kind of music. Steve Earle was a no nonsense kind of guy. He's still a no nonsense kind of guy. I actually got to meet him a couple. I say a couple. That's creeping up on a year ago. I think last April, and yeah, saw him live and his shows. You can tell he doesn't take crap from anybody. But this was a huge album. This was kind of the breakthrough album. Really shot him off. I mean, obviously he had Guitar Town and all that stuff, but Copperhead Road, big line dance now at weddings and parties and all this stuff. But it had this, rough edge to it. But it was also talking about, he's singing about veterans' rights. He is a big advocate in, criminalizing the death penalty. He spends time in jail for a bit. Is married a million different times. Steve Earle is, again, steeped in that tradition of, get your heart broken, rough up some rough up some people, and then you're gonna put out good music, and that's kind of what he was doing. Copperhead Road, everybody knows it. It's kind of like that, almost like Celtic kind of feel to it, but rock and roll drums just pounding, and it's a fantastic record. Check out the song Snake Oil. Nothing But a Child is a really neat ballad that he does about, it's a Christmas song about Jesus. So very interesting. The Devil's Right Hand, that's a rocker. Check that song out. It's a killer tune. Steve Earle, big influence, and he's still kind of looked at as this, father figure in the outlaw kind of side of Americana stuff. Some of the artists that were coming out were artists that were big time, big time artists. They had big hits. But then they were realizing, ooh, my songwriting can be used for more than just putting out big hits. And a big time artist to do that, and is still doing that, is John Mellencamp. This is his album, The Scarecrow. This is from 1986, 87, something like that? 85. Kind of a big deal of a record. This is, you kind of associate John Mellencamp now with Farm Aid, with, doing stuff with Willie Nelson and Neil Young, with being one of the founding members of Farm Aid. And this record kind of shows why. I mean, he's really talking about farmers. He's talking about rural America with songs like Rain on the Scarecrow. Small Town is on here. It's a big hit for him, but there's a lot more to that song than meets the eye. Justice and Independence, 85. Rockin' the USA. So, yeah, he's putting out this great kind of heartland rock music, even though I know he's not a fan of the term heartland rock. But Mellencamp is really doing stuff that is making people listen. It's got a political edge to it. He has a message he wants to get across, and he's very firm in what he believes in. So John Mellencamp, a big influence in Americana music. Then you have stuff like this that's coming out. This is from 82, Nebraska by Bruce Springsteen. Now, obviously, Mellencamp, he's coming from Indiana. Springsteen's coming from Jersey, and Springsteen had all these songs. He did this big production bombastic. He was doing stuff like Rosalita. He did the River Tour just before putting out Nebraska, and then he would do Born in the USA after this. But Nebraska, it's been talked about a million times. Just had a big movie with Jeremy Allen White about it called Deliver Me From Nowhere. This is a stripped back record. It's just Springsteen, vocals, guitar, harmonica. Really, really good. Atlantic City, Mansion on a Hill, all these songs. The song Nebraska, it's beautiful. And, it's Springsteen talking about, again, rural America. He's talking about issues that are going on. I mean, Atlantic City is about, gang fighting in New Jersey, the Chicken Man, and Philly. So yeah, it's these artists that are like, they're saying like, ooh, I can go back and strip my songs down, and they're still good songs. I mean, this has been done before. Springsteen did it. It's been done outside of the Americana genre. I mean, you take any of like the singer-songwriter records that are just a guitar and harmonica. I mean, that's, this is in line with those early Bob Dylan records when he was still a folkie. It's a DIY, recorded in his bedroom, very small tape recorder, but Springsteen was out there doing songs and speaking from the heart, speaking out against corporations, and talking really firmly about the working man. Now I know he's gotten a lot of criticism about his he's a corporation himself. He's doing these $1 million+ nights every time he goes out on tour, and his songs are on TV, all that stuff. But anyway, at the time, 1982, Nebraska, definitely a change of pace for Bruce. Going along with the kind of the big artists doing their stuff. This is not an Americana album per se, but it inspired Americana artists because of the songs, because of the this guy was coming from Florida with an accent. A lot of these songs were a little bit more stripped back than songs that he was doing previously with his band. And I'm talking, of course, from 1989, Tom Petty, his first solo album with Full Moon Fever. Now, again, you might not think of this as Americana. That's okay. What I'm saying is this is an album that was, this is the direction that Americana music, as we know it, was going to go. You're going to have artists like Sister Hazel and the Gin Blossoms and people like that are taking notes from Tom Petty and putting out their own brand of Americana, of kind of like that jingly, jangly songwriting that, in the 60s probably would have been referred to more as just folk rock. But you've got Petty. I mean, as overplayed as it is, you've got a song like Free Fallin'. That's an acoustic song, really. Very jangly on that 12-string guitar. You've got songs like A Face in the Crowd, just this beautiful ballad. That could have been a country song. Feel a Whole Lot Better, that's a Bird song. But again, it's got that feel to it of, it's outside of the realm of, it's not really a rock song. It's like there's nothing really it's just good music. You've got songs like You're So Bad, which has a little bit of humor to it. The Apartment song, which just has this, Bo Diddley kind of dunga 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 kind of, rock beat to it. Again, is it Americana? Probably not, but it is a signal for what's to come in the 90s and into the 2000s. Full Moon Fever by Tom Petty. Taking another, speaking of Feel a Whole Lot Better, you've got artists that are, again, you've got country is big time on the radio now. You've got artists coming out in the 80s. You got, your Randy Travis's. You've got your, Clint Blacks. You've got your George Straits that are coming out in the mid to late 80s. But then there's also that subgenre of music, that country rock that's still kind of there. Again, I mentioned Dwight Yoakam. He's kind of in that camp. Young Marty Stewart is coming out of that camp as well. And so is this band right here. This is the Desert Rose Band, helmed by Chris Hillman there in the middle from the Byrds and the Flying Burrito Brothers, Manassas. Herb Peterson, who plays with Chris up to today. John Jorgensen, who played with Michael Nesmith for a bit and is just a great guitarist and multi-instrumentalist in his own right. They're taking songs by, John Hyatt, like She Don't Love Nobody, having decent hits with it. They're doing, these great songs that, they don't fall in mainstream country music. They're kind of like, there's a little bit of a rock tinge to it. Chris Hillman doesn't necessarily have a southern accent when he's singing, so we can't really put him on country radio. But he's putting out these Desert Rose Band albums. He's put out several of them. Again, you've got a lot of stuff out there like this. Even Michael Nesmith is still kind of hanging out at this time, putting out records in the 80s. And just great stuff. Again, it's got great harmony. It's kind of got great Telecaster guitars and good songs. So Desert Rose Band, just as an example of, again, that kind of underground country that's coming out during the 1980s. Just a couple more here, not as many albums as I've had before. Jumping back to bluegrass, this came out in 1987. This is Blake and Rice, acoustic album by Tony Rice and Norman Blake. Again, at its core, is it a bluegrass album? I guess it could be, but just beautiful acoustic guitar playing. Again, this is going to inspire the likes of Hot Rise in the 80s and 90s, Billy Strings today. You've got even country singers today like Zach Top are looking at this kind of flat picking guitar that Blake and Rice had gotten from listening to the Merle Travises, the Doc Watsons, all these people that were coming out in the 60s, the 50s. They're putting their own spin on it, again, with more of like that progressive bluegrass. They're singing songs by Norman Blake. They're not old-time songs. They're singing I'm Not Saying by Gordon Lightfoot. They're doing Bill Monroe tunes. They're doing, again, traditional songs as well. And again, Tony Rice at this point is going through the peak of his powers in the 1980s. Again, I could have pulled several Tony Rice albums, but this one in particular stood out to me. Blake and Rice doing their own version of acoustic bluegrass music. Again, they're going their own direction. They're singing songs of the modern era, not just traditionals. They're doing original songs. So these guys are making their own kind of world of bluegrass acoustic guitar pickers. That again, that the influence is still there today. And lastly, again, you've got these kind of revivals that are coming out in the 80s. You've got groups like the Stray Cats that are out there doing kind of punk 50s music with Brian Setzer, Slim Jim Phantom, and Lee Rocker doing, again, rockabilly tunes. Again, coming from the South, at the influence of that early rock and roll. That kind of stuff, again, was making itself big. You got people like Chris Isaac that are pulling songs from, or styles from their childhood, from the rockabilly era, and bringing them to the mainstream again. Plus, you've got movies coming out like, the Buddy Holly story. You've got La Bamba with Lou Diamond Phillips. You've got stuff, late 70s into the 80s with American Graffiti and Happy Days. So the 50s were really playing a big part in the revival movement in the late 70s into the 80s. And somebody who really kind of ran with this was Marshall Crenshaw, who actually portrays Buddy Holly in the La Bamba movie with Lou Diamond Phillips in a brief scene toward the end of the film. This is his debut album. Again, great kind of 50s revival music. Listen to the song Cynical Girl, listen to the song Someday, Someway. Marianne, again, he's got this Buddy Holly feel with kind of a new wave attitude, and it's absolutely fantastic. Again, you've got songs that, they wouldn't be hits necessarily in the 80s. They're pulling from this, guy from Texas, from Buddy Holly, from Lubbock, and putting it into the 80s. And again, that's what Americana is doing. It's taking stuff that's old, bringing it into the new, but also maintaining the tradition and the history of the original style of music, if that makes sense. So there you go. Those are about 8 or 9 albums there that I've pulled that I think can portray the 80s Americana scene to a decent level. Again, I know I didn't mention everybody. I know that there are big names that I left out and or didn't show. Again, I mentioned Dwight, Chris Isaac, Los Lobos, Mavericks, all these guys. I understand that. But again, this is what I'm showing. This is what I have. And I hope that maybe it inspires you to dig deep into Americana and to, kind of understand a little bit more about what's happening in the scene. So that does it for the 80s. I'm going to jump back again soon with an episode from about the 90s, where we're really getting full on into what we now know as Americana. So stay tuned for that. I appreciate everybody that's watched. I appreciate all the subscribers because of this series. It's really a surprise. I didn't think the series was going to take off the way that first episode did, but I really appreciate it. And again, I hope you stick around for the rest of the decades here. So that does it for me, everybody. In the meantime, y'all be good, take care, and we will see you on the next one. Bye now.